Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to once again enter the fifth dimension? It is your boy, your host, HMK, creator, voyager, and founder of the fifth dimension. And today we have a very special guest, one of my good friends when it comes to the Nintendo and Zelda hype. Everyone, please welcome my boy, Conrad, aka Commonwealth Realm. How are you doing today?
Amazing, and we're almost there at the Zelda's 35th anniversary.
Oh, I am super duper excited. Now we are gonna be talking, me and him, Zelda content creators. We're always gonna, devolve into the Zelda talk and whatnot. But for this specific discussion today, we are gonna talk about all things speculation on the supposed Nintendo Switch Pro, which I believe, and here's gonna be the first question of the ballot. I believe we're getting it this year. What do you think, Conrad?
Well, the speculation about the new Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch Pro or whatever it's going to end up, I personally love the name Nintendo Switch Nova. It's pretty much the new Nintendo Switch, only with a more Latin or Roman twist.
Like new Nintendo Switch, because Nova usually means novelty or new, right?
Exactly. The thing is, we have been talking about this for quite a while. I think the first couple of videos from the Nintendo tubers on this topic came in late 2018. Then we saw a surge in speculation and rumors regarding this topic as soon as they started working on the new Mariko chip, which turned out to be the Nintendo Switch Lite and the revised version of the base model Switch. But last year we got the message in January, pretty much the same time as we are right now, that there's not going to be any new Nintendo hardware throughout 2020. So now we are in 2021. We have had another 2 years almost since the Switch Lite, and it seems that there is a pattern here going on. We got the Switch in 2017 with Breath of the Wild. We got the Switch Lite with Link's Awakening on the same day, on September 20th, 2019. So now it looks like we could get the top model Switch in 2021. And hopefully for Zelda's 35th anniversary, though I'm a little bit unsure if it's going to be on the same day as Breath of the Wild 2 or Breath of the Wild sequel, whatever you want to call it, will come out.
Right. I in the last episode of the Fifth Dimension, I had Don here, and we talked about that a little bit. And with the supposed idea of a Nintendo Switch Pro coming out this year, or Nintendo Switch Nova, or new Nintendo Switch Plus, whatever, with the idea of something like that coming out this year, I feel like if we're gonna get new hardware, we definitely need some sort of software to push it and stuff. And that really begs the question and begs the idea is oh, are we gonna get something that Breath of the Wild 2 is gonna be featured on the Nintendo Switch Pro? Is it going to be a Nintendo Switch Pro exclusive? I don't think so, because that's the easiest way to shoot yourself in the foot, and Nintendo is a business first and foremost, so I doubt it's going to be anything like the sort of having something like that exclusive on this type of hardware. But it would be nice to release it at the same time, so that you get that, that cross-pollination when it comes to sales and whatnot. And especially if Breath of the Wild 2 is going to have a feature, like I've been saying for years, that oh, play better on Nintendo Switch Nova type shit, right? So obviously that will get people to, invest in that more. But I feel if we are going to get a Nintendo Switch Nova, it has to coincide with the release of something. And I feel like, for Zelda's 35th anniversary, the holiday season looking pretty lit. I just think that's gonna, Breath of the Wild 2, whatever it's gonna be called, is gonna release around November, and then we're gonna probably get the Nintendo Switch Nova around them, because as we all know, around the holiday season, Black Friday, companies are trying to look at getting themselves in the black, getting that bottom dollar, and there's gonna be a lot of disposable income around the holiday season. And I feel that's just all the stars are aligning for something like that. I really think it'll be a huge missed opportunity if they don't coincide a release with something big. You know what I mean? Because be honest, chat, and Connor, I mean, if you weren't a Nintendo content creator, look at the outside, try to look from the outside looking in. If there wasn't a huge release to coincide with the release of a Nintendo Switch Nova, would you pick it up day one, week one, month one? Would you?
Probably not. And the reason is very simple. We've not had a Zelda bundle yet, and when it's coming, I would expect it to be the same as with the Switch Lite, where we got that Pokemon Sword and Shield bundle. So I would expect something similar for Breath of the Wild 2. So obviously, in that kind of situation, I would have held off until Zelda's coming out and until we get that amazing-looking Breath of the Wild 2 Zonai-themed bundle or whatever.
Right. Now, here's one thing I do want to talk about when it comes to the release this year, possibly for a Nintendo Switch Pro, Nintendo Switch Nova, and I already saw something like that in the chat where, sure, Nintendo Switch Pro, obviously the whole idea behind a regular Nintendo Switch, and then we have the Nintendo Switch Lite. The whole idea of another third Nintendo Switch lineup to add to the library of hardware is, of course, to be more powerful. But there's a misconception I already see in the chat where, oh, it needs to be more powerful. They have to get the right amount of power in order for it to compete with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Now, don't get it twisted. Nintendo a long time ago wasn't looking to compete with these other consoles or compete with their competitors in terms of power, in terms of availability and whatnot. The only thing that they're competing in the market is literally just being a part of the market, right? You know, like, what are you going to spend your disposable income on? Of course, that's all of the aspects of competition. What are you going to spend on a PlayStation 4 or a Nintendo Switch? And of course, Nintendo has already distanced themselves from the whole notion of, okay, we need to emulate this, but, you know, bring exclusives or bring our own, you know, flavor to the table. They're focusing a lot more on the flavor rather than the power. They're like, okay, the Nintendo Switch as a concept, you take it on the go, you sit down at home, you play it, and it has great games, and it has like this great amount of technology in order to, you know, mess around, screw around, fuck around with your types of gameplay and stuff. They've been focusing and doubling down on that ever since the Wii. So it's not like they need to focus on power in order to compete with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. What they need to do is to have a draw in terms of either a game or what it can do or what it, you know, has above that of the Nintendo Switch in order to compete for your disposable income against the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S. Yes, they have to compete against them, you know, because it's the next generation, but this, Nintendo has to bring their own answer to the next generation in their own way. What do you think about that, Conrad?
Well, first and foremost, the need for a Nintendo Switch Pro, or as it's already been codenamed based on data mining of the latest Nintendo firmware, we have a codename Ola and a codename Calcio. Codename Ola is an upgraded Nintendo Switch, where literally the system itself, while Calcio is just a dock, an upgraded dock. So I think what they're building up with this is that you can upgrade either completely the system if you don't have a Switch, or just a Switch Lite and want to play in high resolutions or on your TV, or if you have maybe already a Nintendo Switch, maybe you can just upgrade it with the dock. Who knows? We already know that the dock works as a kind of enhancer. We see that it's running in high resolutions, like say The Witcher 3 is running in 720p. When it's docked, it's running in lower resolution when undocked. So I think it could be something similar to that. Definitely. And then the second reason why everyone is talking about the name Switch Pro is tied to how the PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X came in order to extend the life of those systems.
Right.
And in the sense of, if you think about Nintendo now, we have the most successful console, especially tied to a TV, since the Wii. And it's probably going to surpass the Wii as well. Oh, yeah. So it's in Nintendo's best interest to extend the life cycle of this system as far as it's possible. But with the current limitations of the Nintendo Switch, it's hard to see the system lasting much longer than the end of 2022 without a significant performance boost. And that is where we come in with these two codenames, Ola and Calcio.
Right. And I'm pretty sure I remember correctly that during an interview, Doug Bowser said that, you know, they are looking through and exploring options in order to, you know, expand the, you know, longevity of the Nintendo Switch, because what landed into Nintendo's lap is something of a gold mine, which, you know, it's obvious to see that they will want to continue a concept like this for longer than what is a supposed console lifetime, right? And that's completely fine in my idea, in my opinion, because I mean, like, okay, we have the PS4 Pro, and then, you know, we jump into the PS5, which can run PS4 games and stuff, and it has a lot of, you know, upgrades. But I mean, like, it's still in the basis of what it's trying to be in terms of identity is it's a console meant to play like really, really cool games, right? But the Nintendo Switch, you know, has the concept of the hybrid console, take it on the go, put it on the dock and whatnot. And then of course the Joy-Cons are really neat and what's not, but they better fucking, you know, fix those Joy-Cons or whatever. But I like how you brought this up, because I wanted to ask and I wanted to see what your take would be on you know, with those two code names that we saw during the data mine and whatnot. You know, it could be either or. They could be preparing, you know, covering their bases for whatever. We still don't have a concrete idea of what could be in a physical sense of a Nintendo Switch Pro. And a lot of people had the ideas of it either being just a dock or just like, you know, console and dock. Or, you know, if you want to, if you had, like you said, if you have an existing Nintendo Switch, you just get the dock and then, like, you know, it kind of does what you want to do. But do you think Nintendo would take either one of those two routes, or both of those routes? Because, you know, if we were to take both of those routes, for example, you could have a better looking Nintendo Switch in the palm of your hand that has, you know, a higher resolution in terms of the screen on the go and whatnot, maybe just a bigger screen, you know, something like that to make it feel nicer. Because I mean, there are tablets right now that go like they perform excruciatingly stupid well, right? And maybe Nintendo's trying to go into, like, dip their feet into that market. And if you don't want to do all that, if you're not the type of person to take your Switch on the go and don't need, like, 4K, like, on screen in your hand, then you could just settle for the dock, which gives you what you could get from a Nintendo Switch Pro if you buy the whole thing. But if you already own a Switch and you're not planning to, like, have, like, the Omega eye candy in your hand, you could have a dock that will, you know, give you everything that the other one does, but like for your existing Switch. What do you think about that?
I think that Nintendo with the Switch have been trying to build up a module of choice. And that's also why they brought in the Nintendo Switch Lite. Like, they just noticed, okay, a lot of people are playing the Nintendo Switch in handheld mode.
Right.
And that's why I think that they also want not only to give us that dock, which could upgrade the TV experience for existing Switch owners, or just being a TV console, but also upgrading the handheld experience, say with a higher, better display, say in 1080p, and also instead of being an LCD display, having it being OLED, as it's been rumored and also been speculated. And we need to remember the sources for these reports are reputable media outlets like Bloomberg and Economic Daily News from Taipei, where they are developing these chips and equipment. And they also, Nintendo has been sending messages out to developers saying that you should be start making your games 4K ready.
Right.
And that is a very interesting notion. Like, I'm not expecting Breath of the Wild 2 to be in 4K because
whoa. Have you seen that? Have you seen that latest Cemu upgrade to Breath of the Wild for the emulation on the computer that like gets it to 120 frames per second, 4K, and the draw distance is like all encompassing? Bro, don't take away the idea of a 4K Breath of the Wild 2, because I mean, like, it, from what people have been fucking around with Cemu, that shit looks really good though.
Yeah, on PC, but
right.
You need extreme graphical power, and of course Nintendo is working with Nvidia, and any upgrade is going to be tied to this. But we're talking about, let's say, portable chips. It's not an RTX card series that we're playing around with here. The processing power is nowhere close to that. So Personally, I think that we could see some smaller titles reach to those kind of resolutions. But I think for Zelda and for the bigger experiences, like, say, Monolith Soft's new next IP, Metroid Prime 4, I think it's far more crucial that we have stable frame rate.
Right.
Because with Breath of the Wild, we had relative frequent frame rate dips.
Remember at launch, that shit was insane. Especially when you enter the Korok Forest. Bro, I was afraid my Switch was going to blow up. Like, it was bad.
and then you have games like Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Try to play that in multiplayer split screen, and yeah.
Like I give it the benefit of the doubt because, you know, it's no secret that Warriors games aren't optimized. All right, so I mean, like, that's quite Tecmo's fault. That's not Nintendo's fault. So I give it that. But I definitely, bro, there's a video I have where me and my fiance are playing 2-player mode in Age of Calamity. That, bro, there was like smoke coming out of my Switch. I'm like, okay, we're not doing that again. Ooh, man. But all things considered, like what you've been saying, you know, to get that good graphical power and to get that frame rate, because you know, honestly, I'm a type of dude to, like, listen, like, everyone's talking about 4K, 8K, ray tracing, all that stuff. I'm like, listen, for me, the thing that needs to be prioritized is frame rate. All right, just prioritize the frame rate. I don't need to see how many, you know, follicles of hairs on Link's head. I don't need to see all the pores on his nose or anything like that. I don't need to see the like the angel rays coming through the leaves or going on the shadowing of the temple's rocks and the crack in the floor. And bro, I need stable frame rate. Give me that, and I'm good. 60 frames. And like even 30 frames, just make it stable. That's the one priority I want for Breath of the Wild 2, and that's the one thing I would like to see for something like a Nintendo Switch Pro. Something that just, can you imagine, like, if we get a Pro dock and then we just plug that into Age of Calamity and that shit runs like 60 frames per second, like the original Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, bro. That's my priority. I don't know about you, but that's me.
Like, the goal with this game on the upgraded model should be 1080p 60 frames per second. I think that is what benefits it the most. You get better, say, saturation and contrast levels like we had in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity compared to Breath of the Wild. I hope they adapt that to Breath of the Wild 2, though the reveal trailer was definitely not taking advantage of those coloring and lighting techniques.
Right.
So I hope they go back to that and just realize, hey, we have an Age of Calamity looking so much better just because they are handling colors better than we do with our presets. But the thing about that makes this upgrade quite interesting is the DLSS 2.0 technology. The upscaler technology can make games run in high resolutions and higher frame rate. And that is probably the most interesting part in terms of Switch Pro upgrade, because I think this is the kind of technology that NVIDIA would put all priority on, because they know that with their Marker chips, it's hard to get beyond, say, 1080p. But with DLSS 2.0, it could be possible.
You know, given how what other I would say other piece of technology was able to do with similar chips, and with the DLSS, I feel it's possible to do something like that with the Nintendo Switch. What was going for with that type of concept and whatnot. But the one thing that I keep circling back to whenever I hear, like, you know, Nintendo Switch Pro, and specifically the DLSS chip, is that, you know, it's fairly recent, but it's fairly recent, but it isn't. But I want to say it's recent to Nintendo, right? I don't know how many developers have really had, you know, the chance to develop with a chip like that. When it comes to specific consoles, because we know that PS5 is running off of AMD, right? Or
yeah, both of them are running up.
Exactly. So I mean, you know, you have like different manufacturers of different chips for graphical strengths and minuses and whatever. So I want to know how many people will have like a good grasp on it, especially when developing games for Nintendo. And then that is the idea that keeps boiling down when people say, "Oh, where are all the game announcements?" We have Bowser's Fury coming out next month. We have Monster Hunter Rise coming out in March. We have new Pokemon Snap coming out in April. Right, and those are just 3 games spread out between 3 months. We have other games to look forward to, like No More Heroes 3, Bravely Default 2, but I mean, those, like, the release date truly for those titles are kind of up in the wind and whatnot. Could it be possible, Conrad, that, and this, I've been echoing this for a long time now, that, you know, with this impending dark time for 2021, that Nintendo is just really sitting on something, like, they're sitting on the Nintendo Switch Pro and they're waiting on that big reveal to blow out all the games that could be running better or be developed specifically with the Pro in mind, and that's gonna be their next step in big promotional attacks. Because I mean, like, you know, it's like, oh, people are like, Nintendo's doomed. It's not that. It's just that currently the well is coming up dry on what we know, what we can expect for the console. And if you want to keep investors and consumers happy, you have to be a little transparent and stuff. Sure, it, you know, for a company like Nintendo, it works when you catch us by surprise. I mean, look at Age of Calamity, like literally like not even a month between reveal and release, and that game sold 3 million units on its first day. But that can only work for so long. So I feel that they're sitting on something very tantalizing when it comes to the new slate up of games, and how many of those games are going to be Nintendo Switch Pro ready. How do you feel about that?
I would completely agree with you, and the fact is that we've not had any first-party reveals for a long time. I wouldn't even count Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, because that was developed by Koei Tecmo.
Exactly.
And Nintendo, they were just supervising and helping out with the story and narrative in that experience. And if we look at Bowser's Fury, yes, it's a new game experience, but it's like an expansion. And expansions are usually not longer than, say, 5 to 6 hours, so it's not going to be a new Super Mario Odyssey. It might be like 1 or 2 kingdoms, but other than that, it's just going to be the same. So you have Wii U Deluxe port in 3D World and Bowser's Fury, so I wouldn't say, I don't count that either. So not counting those, it's been a very long time since we have seen any new, and then I mean new first-party game reveals from Nintendo. To be fair, I think we have to go all the way back to the reveal of Breath of the Wild 2 at E3 2019, because there's been so little in terms of games that have still not come out. So I have a feeling, and this is just, for now, just take it as a theory, obviously, right. But Switch generation, we've had a massive year every time we've had a new hardware that Nintendo wants to push. Because selling a game, bringing in games, as you mentioned previously, means that you're also going to sell hardware. Just look at Animal Crossing last year and how many Switches were sold as a result of that game.
Yeah, oh my god. A lot. Too many.
Exactly. So let's think. 2017, we have the Switch launching with Breath of the Wild, then followed up by what else? Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the bestseller. And pretty much that game kickstarted everything. Breath of the Wild did a good job, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe really kickstarted the sales of the Switch, along with also Splatoon 2, which did very well, and Super Mario Odyssey. And that is the kind of lineups you need to push a system.
Yo, that was a very strong launch year. Like, what they had, like, and it was slapper after slapper, too. They didn't, like, take any breaks between releases, really. Like, it was crazy.
Exactly. And then you come to 2018, literally a halt, complete halt, with one exception, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Oh, yeah.
But that didn't come out until December. So in a way, you could even count it as the 2019 lineup, which was again a hardware lineup building up towards the Nintendo Switch Lite and the revised model of the base model Nintendo Switch. And what did we have in that year? Well, we have Fire Emblem Three Houses, we have Luigi's Mansion 3, Astral Chain, Link's Awakening, Super Mario Maker 2, Pokemon Sword and Shield. The list is very long of games in 2019. It was maybe even longer. Maybe they didn't have the same heavy hitters in terms of both a new 3D Zelda and 3D Mario, but you had the Pokemon, and Pokemon sells like nothing else. And then follow it right up with Animal Crossing, and then complete silence in 2020. And let's keep in mind, Animal Crossing was delayed from 2019 to 2020. It was supposed to join that push of the Nintendo Switch Lite. And since then...
But, honestly, I felt it fell at the most perfect time. You know, all things considered. Like, even though it got delayed. So,
like, they couldn't have asked...
Oh, go ahead,
they couldn't have asked for a better launch moment. But now we've had such a long gap. No new hardware, as Nintendo promised in January last year. And now we are in this new year. We've heard nothing about that. There's not going to be any hardware talk. We see more and more data mines, more and more reports. I think it's just a matter of time before we get possibly even a Nintendo Switch Pro presentation, because Nintendo is not very keen on the directs. But I could see them do something similar to what they did in 2017. Obviously not live, but have a dedicated presentation. Because when you talk about upgraded hardware, you really want to demonstrate how much better existing and upcoming games are running on this top model. Right. And I think the showcase title in that is going to be Breath of the Wild 2, because they already showed how that game runs through that reveal trailer on the regular Nintendo Switch. So now it's time to show how much better it will look on the codename Ola and Calcium.
Right. Now, I want to segue to another aspect of Nintendo Switch Pro announcements, possibly when it comes to, like, you know, this harder, better, more powerful hardware and whatnot. And the one other thing I want to discuss is potential third-party software that we already know that exists that could be showcased on this for release. Like, they could do like a you know, a what do you call them, a rundown of games and whatnot. And I want to discuss with you on games that you would like to see on Nintendo Switch Pro that already exist on stronger hardware that could run on something like Nintendo Switch Pro. And for me, I think the first thing that would be really cool, Conrad, if the Nintendo Switch Pro is really up to snuff, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, there's no better example. Like, making it possible to play this game on a Switch without any cloud system or anything. Yeah, Cloud Strife, very funny. But I mean, if you can make that run on a cartridge on a Nintendo Switch Pro and then have a cloud service for the rest, say Switch Lite and the regular Switch, then you have just proven beyond any doubt that, yeah, we're aiming for this to be as powerful as the PlayStation 4. And right. I think that is more than enough.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't need this to be like PS5 power level. You know, a lot of people say that, but I mean, like, no, I want the Nintendo Switch to be as powerful as PS5. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Like, what? Man, you want PS5 power, but you don't want PS5 price? Boy, man. But what's a game that already exists that you would love to see on Nintendo Switch Pro, like that would be able to run on a Pro that couldn't run on the regular Switch?
Now I need to think what is not exclusive to the other systems in terms of games that came out. I would actually very much like to see Devil May Cry 5.
Oh,
I think that game would be another example.
Yo, I was thinking about that. That was in my head. I was like, yo, Devil May Cry 5, Devil May Cry 5. And, see? We're on the same wavelength. Yo, Devil May Cry 5 on the Switch, Special Edition, give me that Virgil. Bro, let's go, man. I just, that would be toasty. That would be incredible.
Resolution and frame rate, perfect demonstration of the power of a Switch Pro, and then have it in working through a cloud service, because cloud games have been a mixed bag. But if Nintendo can create a platform like, say, Google Stadia, but for the Switch, then you can make this work.
Right.
And that is all that matters, because you don't want games. I also think that for Square Enix and for Capcom, it is important that you can play this game across the board, because you want to take advantage of the 17 million Switches out there in the market already, because that is the market they are interested in. They just have lacked the power and the excuse to put it on the system to this point.
Oh man, I just really think that, you know, we're gonna get this an explosion of games like announced at least very soon, because that's what I really feel Nintendo's waiting on that. But other games that I would like to see on the Switch Pro, I mean, guys, you're saying in the chat, I already see. Of course, I would love Kingdom Hearts 3 to be on something like of a Switch Pro, but you know, but I would want all the other games first on the Switch. I like, you know, the story so far, 2.8, 1.5, 2.5, the whole shebang. We already got Melody and Memory and whatnot. But I would definitely want Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. Can you imagine if they actually released Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind like on one cartridge on the Switch, and then they're like, oh, for those who want a physical release on PS5 or PS4, where the fuck they do Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind on that would be dope. But people were like, oh, we they said we're not gonna get any Kingdom Hearts announcements this year, and I'm like, bro, it's like it's an existing game that's coming to another system. I don't know if we're gonna call that an actual like announcement, but you know, don't get me started. Yo, Conrad, stop me. Say something. Stop me. I'm about to go on the fucking Kingdom Hearts train. Don't do this. Man. But other games definitely would be, you know, because like Conrad said, Devil May Cry 5 will be definitely good, really good. And the fact that we're getting Monster Hunter Rise, which is coming out in March, that's gonna be the first game on the Switch that's gonna run the RE engine. So now, not only do we know it's possible, but we're gonna see how well it turns out, and then, you know, maybe we'll get some more RE engine games on the Switch. Maybe we'll see Resident Evil. I mean, Resident Evil 7 was on the cloud version on the Switch already, but like, you know, Devil May Cry 5. I don't know about Resident Evil Village. They seem to really pushing the fucking next gen shit on that, so I don't know if we're gonna see Resident Evil Village on the Switch anytime soon. But other games that I feel will be really, really cool. Well, man, we had Dragon Ball FighterZ already on the Switch. That's crazy, bro.
We had The Witcher 3. That is even more.
Oh yeah, yo, that's magic, bro. That's black magic. I don't know how they did that, man. That's fucking voodoo that they're doing with that, putting all that shit in the cartridge. I was seeing stuff about Persona 5 or Persona 5 Royal. I really don't think that Persona 5 is coming to the Switch. You know, we got Strikers. Strikers counts, but doesn't count because, I mean, like, oh, it's Persona 5 Strikers. But it's like, it's a Koei Tecmo Musou game developed by Koei Tecmo with Atlas helping out. Now, that's not Persona 5. And I don't think Persona 5 is going to be on any other console outside that of PlayStation 4. PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation lineup of consoles. And the reason why is because I feel that Sony had a really big hand in funding the game. And with that in mind, you know, they're not going to put it on any other console because that's probably like the agreement or not. It's not, this shit's not even on PC, bro. Like, it's not just console exclusive, it's exclusive, man. It's not on Xbox, not on PC, not on Switch. Like, so, you know, trust me, I will love, like, Persona 5 can run on the Switch easily. It doesn't even need the Pro because it's a PS3 game, bro. It can run on the Switch easily, but it's probably not gonna come to the Switch because of the fucking, you know, whatever deal that Sony and Atlas had behind the scenes or whatnot. The same reason why Bayonetta 2 and 3 are not gonna be outside of, you know, the Switch and the Wii U, right? You know, sure, we have Bayonetta 1 on PC, but you're never gonna see Bayonetta 2 on PC because Nintendo funded that game, and Nintendo's funding Bayonetta 3. That's like for the same reason, guys. So I mean, it's unfortunate, but business is business. You know what I mean? Oh my god.
Besides, Nintendo already has a deal in regards to the exclusivity of Shin Megami Tensei 5, which is coming out this year as well.
Exactly. You know, we got Shin Megami Tensei 5, but you know, Conrad, something really tells me that we're gonna get that's gonna be timed exclusive. We're probably gonna see that on PC at one point. Just, I think it's gonna be. I think that's gonna come out at that point. Man.
Oh, yeah, it depends a little bit on sale. I think when you have a console exclusivity and it sells well enough, I think that's enough. Like in the case of Persona 5, there were just so many PlayStation 4s out, over 100 million. So you had a massive market to sell to. And the Switch is pretty much the same deal. By, who knows, we might even surpass 100 million next year if we get the correct lineup this year in terms of the number of Switches on the market. It's not out of the realm of the possibilities, in my opinion.
Man, I just, you know, it really, like, okay, you guys already know, me and Conrad, like, we had to cross the Zelda Wii U desert together, so we're not new to the notion of being left in the dark. But I mean, that's just for like a Zelda game. It really sucks being left in the dark when it comes to like aspects of, you know, a whole company or a whole console and stuff. And then, you know, people are like, yo, if you're here sitting and waiting and speculating about what games are coming out, go play some games. I'm like, bro, I played games. I need, like, I've played the games. I need more games to play, more games to look forward to and stuff. So it's like, it's not that hard. I mean, it's it's not that hard to play the games. It's kind of hard to like wish and wait for the games. Also, guys, thank you so much for over 100 viewers in the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on out to the 5th dimension. But all things considered, I really, jeez, something tells me that Breath of the Wild 2, we didn't hear a peep about that last year. Which is fine. It's nothing compared to what Zelda Wii U will have to wait for. But I feel that Breath of the Wild 2 is something that we're gonna see in full force this year when it comes to the 35th anniversary and the Switch Pro. And you know, it's so funny how like the Switch Pro. We were talking about this before stream, Conrad. How the Switch Pro has been in the discussion for how long? Like people has been like talking about Switch Pro since like 2018 and whatnot. And now here we are, 2021. And I feel like this is finally getting to the point because sure, we could talk about the Switch Pro in 2018, but there are still games coming out. We could talk about the Switch Pro 2019. We got the Switch Lite coming out. So I mean, like the conversation's there, but I mean, like, is it gonna happen? Probably not. But now we're reaching, I would say, the end of the tunnel when it comes to okay, so what's next? And Nintendo's like, so I feel like the only thing that could be next is a Nintendo Switch Pro. Now, here's a question that I wanted to ask you when it comes to like the supposed games or whatnot. I've already been seeing people in the chat talk about the idea of here and there and whatnot. And that is, do you feel it's a good idea for the Pro to have Pro exclusive games or just simply regulate it to play better on Pro?
Cartridge exclusive, yes. Completely exclusive, no. And let's just take this from the perspective of both Nintendo and their partners, third-party partners, and so on. How many Switch Pros are there on the market right now? 0. How many Nintendo Switches and Switch Lites are on the market? Close to 70 million. In other words, it makes no sense to make games exclusive to Nintendo Switch Pro. Just look at the new Nintendo 3DS. They tried to do that, having exclusive games on that system. Completely backfired.
It did. Yeah, it did. Ooh, my lord.
I think there was like 2 or 3 games, and then they realized, like, okay, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
instead,
I'm pretty sure it was just Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, and
the enhanced version of Hyrule Warriors. That
wait, Legends was new. Legends was new exclusive.
It wasn't exclusive, but it was unplayable on the base model 3DS.
So it might as well be exclusive, right? Shit. Yeah, Nintendo's like, no, that's not a good idea. I mean, I see why they would want to at least attempt it, but I mean, like you said, they at this point they probably already know. They're like, disgusting.
True. Like, to me, this question ties a lot to the strategy of the PlayStation 4. When they came with the PlayStation 4 Pro, they said immediately, all games that are going to be coming out are both for PS4 and PS4 Pro.
Yeah.
It's just that by playing these games on PS4 Pro, you're getting better resolution, better frame rate, and more details because of the rendering and computing power within this system. And I think we're going to see something similar. If you want to play the best version of, say, Breath of the Wild 2 or the next 3D Mario, especially now with the whole open world idea that they're working with in Bowser's Fury, I think that we could see significant differences in terms of graphics and frame rate between the base model Switch and the Nintendo Switch Pro. And that could also be a way why they are bringing, say, 2 options. One being a complete upgrade, so also having that upgrade when playing in on-dock mode, and the other one being just upgrading the dock, because you want the best resolution when playing TV. Like us YouTubers, we need the Switch for one thing primarily, and that is to have it on the TV, having a capture card connected to it, and capturing the footage.
But, you know, one thing I'm looking forward to when it comes to the Nintendo Switch Pro, when you said that, which is the main thing I was thinking about, is that, bro, how insane is it gonna be that if and when the Pro comes out, and then like it features you can play games better on the Pro. Yo, we're gonna be going back with all these games and just seeing how there could be a difference between, like, let's say Breath of the Wild, like you're running on that extra power and whatnot, you know, bigger draw distances, absolutely no loading times and whatnot. And when I say loading times, I mean like when you go into shrines or anything like that, or if you decide to try and break the game and then you try to go from point A to point B using, you know, stasis and bombs and whatnot. Can you imagine like all of that like content of just like, oh, let's see, all right, this is what Breath of the Wild looks like on a regular Switch. Let's see what it's like on Switch Pro, and then like the before and after. Man, I already know Digital Foundry is just gonna be like, let's go, man. I'm ready for that. But when it comes to other games, like, you know, of course, you know, the biggest thing when it comes to Switch Pro is Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4. Yeah, definitely Metroid Prime 4. I want to say, I should be saying that for Bayonetta 3. You know, I feel that those are the only games on the market. I really don't think Shin Megami Tensei 5, SMT 5, whatever. I keep butchering that name. I really don't think that specific title is going to be like developed or worked with the Pro in mind. I just think that Alice has been doing their own thing and they're just gonna release it. It's gonna be a good game, and you know, it's gonna have Pro enhancements when the Pro comes out or whatnot. But I definitely think that Bayonetta 3, Metroid Prime 4, and Breath of the Wild 2 are games that are, you know, gonna be developed with Pro in mind, but of course can still run on base Switch. The reason why is because, of course, like, you know, a couple of things. Bayonetta 3, we have not heard, like, no, we've heard stuff, but we have not seen anything, not even gameplay, not even an actual logo of Bayonetta 3. And then, you know, the developer Hideki Kamiya, he's all like, yeah, development's going well, and I'm like, okay, you know, you could have fooled me. But thinking about that is like, maybe the reason why he doesn't want to show anything is because he can't, and the reason why he can't is because they're fucking around with the Pro when developing that game, developing that game and having it in mind. But you know, that begs the question, like, how long has the Pro been in Nintendo's mind? You know, because they always they lie when they say, oh, yo, we're not planning to do any type of like new upgrade in hardware and stuff. No, they're full of shit. They just, you know, that's their PR answer. And Bayonetta 3 got announced in 2017. Same thing with Metroid Prime 4, but I feel Metroid Prime 4 has a bit more leeway to be believable in the sense of it being developed with Pro in mind. Is because it was being developed at a certain point, and then we got that update from Nintendo saying, hey, listen, so Prime 4 ain't working out. We have no idea what we're doing. We're just gonna restart development and let Retro handle it. At that point of, you know, restarting development, I'm pretty sure that announcement came out like mid to early 2018 or anything like that. I feel that was like the catalyst point for them, you know, shifting gears and priming up, get it, the Nintendo Switch Pro lineup of games. And that's one big example. And then the other big example for Breath of the Wild 2 is that they gave us the taste and whatnot, and you know, once again, they dropped that trailer and they really just left. But I feel that Breath of the Wild 2, considering the 35th anniversary, like, you look at everything, you kind of see that it's obvious that they would want a game like this to, like, you know, help champion the sales of the Nintendo Switch Pro, and that is my take on that. But, you know, what other games do you feel like is in Nintendo's bag that we know of or don't know of that could be, you know, developed with Pro in mind?
Definitely Monolith Soft's next IP after Xenoblade
You really
Chronicles,
think that they're like, I know that they have been hiring for positions and stuff like that, but I would always think that that's them trying to find people to help them out with Breath of the Wild 2's development. You think they're making something else on the side as well?
Oh, definitely. They haven't made a brand new game after all since Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that was in 2017.
Right.
So by the end of this year, it's going to be 4 years since that game. And people want to hear something about, like, this whole mysterious new IP is turning into pretty much their cyberpunk situation. Revealed or teased way too soon, and then development doesn't start until sometime after your next project.
Right.
And they've been busy, of course, working on Future Connected for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. We don't know if they might be doing a similar thing for Xenoblade Chronicles X, which they did for, since that
a lot of people are asking for X, and I feel you know, honestly, I think X would be a good Pro title, like a good like when the Pro launches, like Breath of the Wild 2 and X Definitive Edition. I think that would be good.
I think both of those could do very well, and I have a feeling that the next IP, we could see it revealed this year, but I don't expect it to launch until next year. because that will be 5 years.
I think that's a
since
little hopeful. I think that's whoa. You think we're gonna get Xenoblade Chronicles 3 next year?
No, the new IP.
Uh,
Like it's a complete new RPG. I've been being teased by this so many times by Roger, and he's very excited about that project. It looks completely different than Xenoblade Chronicles. So yeah, I think it's an interesting take. And
if Monolith is gonna give me a game, I need it to be Xenoblade. All right, you're not allowed to work on other games. I'm sorry. No, it's fine. It's fine.
I need to send you the concept art, and you're gonna change your mind immediately.
No, guys, you need to understand. I love Xenoblade. Xenoblade is one of my favorite series ever. Of course, you know, it being just a small portion of the bigger Xeno metaverse, meta series and whatnot. But I love Xenoblade. I love Xenoblade 1, X, 2. Those are some of my favorite games. Definitive Edition was so good, and I would love to see an X Definitive Edition for 2 reasons why. One, like it was said in the chat by KYH, Xenoblade Chronicles X was pushing the Wii U to its absolute limit. That shit was frying that shit was frying my Wii U motor, but that game is so good. 2 is that, listen, no spoilers, right? No spoilies, but the way that the story ended in X, I'm like, okay, what the fuck? No, what the no. If any of y'all ever beat Xenoblade Chronicles X, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm like, wait. I'm like, where's the rest of it? Like, what the fuck? And then you would think, oh, Xenoblade Chronicles X2 or Xenoblade Chronicles Extreme or Xenoblade Chronicles, like, and they just really left us high and dry. And they're like, nah, we're gonna take this, we're gonna take these developmental tools that we used to make X, and we're gonna make 2 instead. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's 2. And even though they lied about it not having story connections to 1, because it does, that's cool. But you're really gonna leave me high and dry the way you ended X? The fuck is an ending like that? Nah. So for X Definitive Edition, you need to continue that shit. You need to give me resolution. You need to give me. Nah. You cannot fucking. Nah. Great game. The ending tilted the fuck out of me. It wasn't a bad ending. It was just. Where's the rest of it? Nah. If you're gonna give me you're gonna give me Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, you gonna give me what I want. You're gonna give me what I want, and you're gonna give me what I want. And what I want is a complete story. How the fuck? I'm sorry, Conrad. What were we talking about?
We were talking about the potential new IP by Monolith Soft. And I've sent you some concept art of it, because that is on their official website. And you might change your mind about this because it looks freaking incredible.
Wait, did you send it to me on Discord already?
On Discord, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And this is if there's a pro title.
Fuck! God! No! Why'd you? No! No! Dude, that first image already has me sent. And bro, like when I see this image, I'm like, okay. Like even if you didn't tell me Monolith Soft did this concept art, I would know right away that it was them. I would know right away. I'm like, yeah, that Monolith did this shit. Wait, is it cool to show the chat or?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
No problem.
All right. No, I didn't know if this was super secret squirrel type shit.
Oh no! It's available everywhere.
All
they
have
it on their website as well.
Bro, chat. I'm gonna show you this image. I'm like, I see this shit, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, that's Monolith. Like, holy shit, that's no one else but Monolith does builds areas like this. I'm like, of course it is, man. Look at this shit. But no, give me Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I don't care. Like, yeah. Oh my god.
Just open world new IP. I think that's their ambition next because they must just become so hungry after Breath of the Wild.
Right.
It's like, oh, we were the kings of big open experiences on Nintendo systems, and I think this is their attempt of taking it back.
Right. It looks like Zelda. Nah, Zelda wish they had landscapes like that. Don't disrespect Monolith Soft like that, all right? Zelda wishes they had landscapes like this, man. That shit has straight up Gower Plains energy, where you have like the overarching plateaus, and then things interconnected at the bottom and stuff. It looks like a fusion of Gower Plains and the fucking where Melius people live in Xenoblade 1, you know, like the top of the Bionis.
So you know the high Entians.
Yeah, the high Entias. That area, like, you know, where they're fucking the capital floats, and then it's like that big watery beach area. It's like a combination of those two. And I'm like, this is sending me. This is Alchemoth. Yeah, Alchemoth. Yeah, whatever. But I still want Conrad. I still want Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Maybe eventually, but I think that Monolith Soft is ready for something else than just doing Xenoblade games. I just think it's their time, and I think the Switch Pro is like the perfect way for them to take advantage of more power to really push the envelope.
Right.
Because they have been held back. Because I think they have the talent of making games that would shine on PC and PlayStation 5 and everything. It's just that they had to limit themselves with the scope that they are working with. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a massive game. Xenoblade Chronicles X far bigger. Like,
oh yeah, X is gigantic, bro.
Like the whole mech thing and where you fly incredible distances. It's insane. So it just shows that they are just waiting for Nintendo to bring them stronger hardware so they can do more stuff that they know that they're capable of pulling off. So as I've said, Breath of the Wild 2, I think the reason we're not seeing that game for such a long time is tied to that the next time they bring it up, it's going to be when they reveal the Switch Pro. And when they do that, they want to do it in a big setting, because you don't show new Breath of the Wild or Zelda trailers for a new Zelda game in a YouTube upload,
right,
or even in a direct. You do it in big presentations, big meaty presentations, E3 or a Nintendo Switch presentation. And that's why I think that this is the year when Nintendo might not do a Nintendo Direct, but instead just do one massive presentation to show, okay, here's NVIDIA telling about everything we can do with this hardware. Pro Controller being bundled with this system, because you want to play it with the best possible controller that we have developed in the last decade. And then you have all these other games that we wouldn't be able to run, but we can run now on the Pro, and will be available as cloud titles on the base model and the Switch Lite.
Right.
And I think that is like perfect marketing strategy, because you get everyone gets games, but you get the true experience with cartridge and no internet required and so on the Switch Pro.
Exactly.
And that will make the Switch Pro the ultimate version of the Switch, and also warrant the price entry fee to play the games on it.
Well, I was just thinking, can you imagine if Nintendo, like you said, they're not going to drop this type of information. They're not just going to drop it. But can you imagine, like, Nintendo just really, like, just drops the, they drop the upcoming reveal of it just out of nowhere. It's like, oh, like, we're all just chilling, you know, you're sleeping, I'm sleeping and whatnot, Dawn is up and whatnot. And they just drop on social media, it's like, tune in on this day for the next evolution of Switch. And we're like, okay, it's coming. All right, it's here. It's like a 2-hour presentation. And I'm like, so we're really doing this. Because I agree that they're not going to drop the information out of nowhere, but I feel they're just going to drop the presentation. They're going to drop the announcement of the presentation just literally, like, no one's going to see it coming. No one's going to see it coming. Like, you know, like Judgment Day. Like, everyone's like, oh, get, like, you know, leakers and everyone on the inside or stuff. They're like, oh, just get ready for this date. This is when Nintendo's gonna, you know, do this or do that or do that. Now, Nintendo's like, okay, where they're looming over the button. They're looming over the button and just like, all right, press everything on social media. Get ready for the evolution of the Switch. I don't know. I'm just gonna throw out a date. Yo, what if this happens to turn out to be true? Imagine the date is gonna be like May 13th. Yeah, keep that logged in. Keep that logged, guys. May 13th. Let's see if I am able to channel the fifth dimension, and if it's a day before or a day ahead, I was almost there. But let's see if we can let's see if we can do that. That'd be dope. Because I definitely agree with you that they will save something this huge for around E3 time. But I mean, like, considering where the world is right now with the pandemic and whatnot, and the fact that
we're not gonna have a big E3. Come on, it's not gonna happen.
Wait, what?
we're not going to get a physical E3.
Oh no, of course not, of course not. But like even considering what the state of E3 before the pandemic, you know, E3 is just I don't, bro. Like pandemic or not, I don't think E3 is coming back. Like they can say they're coming back all they want, but I mean, like last year had to be canceled, and last year they were trying to do some hanky panky shit, and I'm like, bro, what is this? Like these concepts look so fucking whack, right? So they're like, oh, we're gonna reschedule for this year, and like the pandemic is still going on, and you know, I just with the state that E3 was left the last time we saw it, bro, I don't know. So I think Nintendo's just gonna have to, you know, buckle their shoes and like, okay, like you know, when Thanos is getting the Infinity Gauntlet, it's like, fine, I'll do it myself. Just like they make, like, no, we make the E3 now. Like we, that's just like, I think that's what's gonna go down.
It's literally what Sony did with the PlayStation 5 reveal last year. They took E3 week and now this is our week. And they were
like,
no, not even going to attend E3.
That shit was so funny. Yeah, nah, yo, Conrad is on the money. It's like, oh, that was E3 week? No, it's PS5 week. That's what it is. So I feel, you know, I think Nintendo is just gonna, you know, be in that right spot where they decide to do their own thing. And I feel like, you know, sure, everyone expects something around summertime, around E3 time, but I'm just like thinking about the whole notion of Nintendo rolling to the beat of their own drum. And I feel like when everything that we know that they revealed is up, that's when they're like, okay, it's time to just start the wheel anew. Time to start the wheel anew. And I feel May will be a good spot. What do you think?
A little bit difficult to point out, because if you launch it at around that time frame, HMK, I'm not sure if it's going to launch with Breath of the Wild 2, because I have a feeling that Breath of the Wild 2 still needs time to develop, and they want to make it a big holiday title, like the crowning achievement of the 35th anniversary of... Because I still have this feeling that Bowser's Fury and Age of Calamity swapped the release months.
Right.
So why would you launch
really
a Mario game? Yeah, because...
Yeah, I mean, like, the 35th anniversary, I get it. Yeah.
It's obvious he needed more time on Bowser's Fury, so Age of Calamity was done, and bang, we're gonna launch it. And I don't think the Zelda team was too happy about it, because that means, oh crap, if we now need to delay Breath of the Wild 2 to say sometime in 2022, that means we have no Zelda game in 2021.
Right.
And that is the issue. But I have a feeling that Nintendo might go with maybe launching the Pro in the summer, have a special Zelda bundle around
the summer.
The event.
Man, I'm sorry. Every time someone, like Connor, every time I feel someone thinks that Breath of the Wild 2 or the Switch Pro is gonna come out anytime before the end of this year, I'm like, I don't see it. I really don't. I don't see it, man. Like I feel like if they're gonna release something like this, they're gonna mark it up to the point in time where they can maximize their sales. Sure, maybe, you know, I would say the sales could be more more lucrative in the long run if you were to release them in summer and then leading up to holiday season, and then have another holiday season blow out like a holiday title or whatnot. Sure, I get that, but I mean, considering that everyone is still frantically, not only are people trying to look for PS5s, Xbox Series X's and stuff, like people are still trying to get their hands on them. We also have, the whole thing going on with the Nvidia RTXs and stuff, and those things are selling like hotcakes and stuff. I feel there's just like within the gaming PC technology world, there's a big flux of a money sink when it comes to everyone trying to get a specific piece of technology, that if Nintendo were to try and disrupt that by throwing their own hand into that bag a little too soon, like, they can miss an opportunity. And I'm sure marketing experts within Nintendo just like, they're like, wait, like, hold, brothers, hold. So I feel that they would want to place their best bet around the point in time within the year where everyone has the most disposable income, which is holiday season. So that's what I think.
Yeah, it could be. And then say, but that means a very slow 2021 until we get to that point.
Woo!
And then the 2022 is going to be this big year, because they're going to be holding back titles. and maybe have one or two first-party titles like that they could launch already. I still think that if they're going to launch a big first-party game, it would be Splatoon 3 this
Oh
year.
yeah.
Because that game, Splatoon 2, is running well on the regular Nintendo Switch. And that's why I think that is a game that they don't have to wait until the Switch Pro. So that could be a way of prolonging and then just waiting until Breath of the Wild 2 comes out. Because I just don't see many more games coming out until, say, July, September. And that's the time frames that we're going to be filling out in this year, because 3D Mario, let's face it, that ship sailed as soon as Bowser's Fury had to be pushed back, and it's the same Mario team that is developing that. So even though it would be time to have a new 3D Mario, it's likely not going to happen until late in 2022 because of the whole Bowser's Fury extra time needed, most likely situation. And probably they wanted to have a new 3D Mario this year because it's the 25th anniversary of Super Mario 64, so it would be a great way of celebrating, especially with the whole emphasis on celebrating 64 that Super Mario Odyssey had. The whole throwback in the post game of that game was a good example of that. So I just have a feeling that Nintendo, COVID obviously delayed stuff, but I have a feeling that delay things out of 2021 because that is just going too far. Nintendo knows that the Switch has a limited time on the market. They see that hardware is aging worse and worse by each passing year, and that's also why you have the need for a Switch Pro model, a top model upgrade, so that you can extend the life of the system for 2 or 3 years compared to what the current system would have left.
I definitely see that and whatnot, but that's the thing. Like I feel the only reason why we think that I feel that the regular Switch or the Switch Lite or whatever the fuck has a incoming end of lifespan is because the games, bro, like keep making games and we'll keep thinking that your system is alive and whatnot. So I feel that's the only reason why we're thinking like, oh, the Switch has this many years in the tank, 1, 2 years and stuff, unless they decide to put a Switch Pro. But I feel like I feel if we kept getting more game announcements and more games releasing into 2021 beyond that or whatever the fuck, I don't know if we'll be having the same type of conversation right now. But all things considered, a Nintendo Switch Pro would definitely be a good way in order to not only rejuvenate the lifespan of the Nintendo Switch, but also rejuvenate the interest of people who were always either on the fence of a Nintendo of getting a Nintendo Switch or haven't even touched the Nintendo Switch in a long time. Because I've seen people that are like, man, I haven't played Nintendo Switch in a good minute, or I haven't wow, this will give me a good reason to play a Nintendo Switch or whatnot. And a Pro, I feel that would get a lot of I would say like used to be avid players of Switch games to get back into the fold. And then what you said about Splatoon 3, I feel that Splatoon 3 could release this year. Because it's time for the next Splatoon, because Splatoon 1 came out 2015 and then Splatoon 2 came out 2 years afterwards for the Switch in 2017, and then it's 2021, so it's about 4 years, like about to be 4 years since Splatoon 2. And I feel like the next Splatoon game is up, especially since aside from the fact that we had the Super Mario 35th anniversary Splatfest were done, and then by the time when Splatfests are done, with Splatocalypse, Chaos versus Order, that was basically like, okay, yeah, we've reached the end of the lifespan of Nintendo's official support of Splatoon 2 in game. Sure, they still support the tournaments, and then we had the 35th anniversary thing or whatnot, but I like Chaos versus Order Splatfest was like the marker. I'm like, okay, this is probably when we could start expecting Splatoon 3 to be on the horizon. And, with a Switch Pro, Splatoon 3 would be a great way to showcase what a game like that could do on a Pro, versus what Splatoon 2 was able to do on the Switch and what Splatoon 1 was able to do on the Wii U. And I feel like that will be a good thing to launch with, or a good thing to start promoting at that point, which, goes back to the idea of, will the Pro release? before holiday season, and then maybe like the Pro launches with maybe Splatoon 3, and then leading up to the Breath of the Wild 2 release in holiday season, and then, you know, they'll already have the install base. I don't know, you know, because like you said, I definitely don't think Nintendo's gonna go down the line of having Pro exclusive games. So that really begs the idea, like, you know, okay, we're gonna launch with Splatoon 3 in summer, but, you know, none of these games that are coming out that are built for Pro are exclusive to Pro. And, you know, okay, now we're leading up to the release of Breath of the Wild 2 in holiday season. The install base for a Switch Pro would be really up in the air if the game is not going to be exclusive. But at the same time, you know, everyone and their mamas right now has a Switch. And, you know, if Breath of the Wild 2 can run on the other models, you know, it doesn't really matter in the end. But of course, Nintendo's going to want to push Pros and whatnot. But either way, I feel that Breath of the Wild 2 is going to sell abnormally well whenever it comes out, if it's going to be launched with the Pro or not. But I feel it's a very confusing thing, you know.
Like, I would like to go back. You mentioned Switch Pro launching with Splatoon 3, and that is a concept that I've also been playing around with myself in a couple of videos. And I think it's actually a very interesting idea, because Splatoon usually tries to show an upgrade, a graphical upgrade, say Splatoon 2 from from Splatoon on Wii U. And the same goes with Splatoon 3. And people say, yeah, this is a once-in-a-generation thing. But what would be the point of a Nintendo Switch Pro? To prolong the life cycle of the Nintendo Switch.
Right.
Which means that it would take even longer, say, until, I don't know, 2023, 2024.
You really think that they're going to wait until the next generation in order to bring up another Splatoon game? Splatoon is mega popular in Japan. And they're not going to wait until the next console in order to release another Splatoon game. Boy, no. Man. Nintendo's released sequels on the same console before. It's not unheard of.
Splatoon 2 sales. Yeah, Splatoon, as of September 2020, sold over 11.27 million copies worldwide, which makes it among the best-selling Switch titles. And it's definitely a title that Nintendo could consider for launching the Switch Pro. It has that selling power that it could be considered as a launch title.
Right.
Months before.
But KYH says they literally think that Splatoon is going to be a once-in-a-console generation thing, and that will be bad, splitting the player base of 2 and 3. What you do is you go from 2 and you go to 3, because that's the next game. This is not an invisible, or, you know, this is not a concept that is unknown to gamers, you know. Like, Splatoon 2 is done, you go to the next game. Oh, but I want to stick with that. I'm like, so you're still playing Melee all this time? Like, bro, like, this is the next game. You go to the next game. Splatoon 2 is done, you know? So...
And besides, Nintendo see the dollar signs, you know, or the yen signs, that say, okay, we can make money. And then they are going to do it. Yeah. That.
Oh boy!
Like this is one thing that people tend to forget. Nintendo doesn't give a crap about what you think is the time for launch of a new game or not.
Yeah.
For them, it's only what makes sense from a business perspective, because they have a stock price to uphold, especially now after the massive boost caused by Animal Crossing. Like, if you've looked at Nintendo stocks. The last 12 months, 60% surge. That is insane, even compared to a lot of tech companies that had a rally during the pandemic, because people were obviously at home and investing in technological solutions.
Yeah, so, like, because I want to say, like, I promise you, if the Wii U did better, I promise you, Splatoon 2 would have been on the Wii U. Splatoon 2 would have been on the Wii U, I promise you. But of course, you know, Nintendo obviously knew that they had to jump ship, so Splatoon 2 on the Switch. You know, that's what they do. When they're not making a deluxe, they just make a sequel.
Yeah, and you can see that they literally plugged out the Wii U prematurely, because it was a complete flop, and all the games projects that were meant to be exclusive for the Wii U, like Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Imagine that game came out in 2015, exclusive of the Wii U. Man, we would have been living in a different time. Oh, man.
We would be living with a completely different game.
Yep.
Asian game. it would have been a completely different game. And I'm glad they did what they did, because I love bringing my Zelda adventure on the go, being able to not being just bound to my TV. And I think everyone agrees with that. Just having the option, the freedom, and that's the whole thing about the Switch. Play it the way you want, where you want, when you want, and however you want. And that is also the slogan of the entire console. And that's why I think the Switch Pro is so crucial, and why they have this whole pricing. Because we haven't talked about the price of the system yet, which I think is a crucial thing to do. The Switch launched at $299 US, Switch Lite at $199. So it would be tempting to see, okay, Switch Pro $399, but I don't think it's as simple as that. I think that the time for a price cut for the base model Nintendo Switch would come along with the Switch Pro. So say the Switch Pro launches for $350, and then you have a $50 price cut on the base model Nintendo Switch to $249.
Right.
And then you have a $200 upgrade of the dock. If you just want to...
$200.
Yeah. Because it's better than paying another, or $150. Let's say $150 then.
Right.
Because then you have a $150 difference.
I think 100. No, wait, actually, because a regular dock goes for $90 right now. Yeah. So I'm like 150. That seems 150 to be an upgrade. That seems too good to be true. And $200 is like $200. Okay, so $200. Fuck, I think $200. It sucks, but I think $200 would be good. Yeah.
I think that is the pricing model that Nintendo is going to go for, because then you don't really need to change the pricing that much. You have a console that is not overpriced, a top model that is not overpriced. You have a base model which has a very nice entry fee, and anything below $300 is a very nice entry fee, if you ask me. And right. As long as it doesn't say $299. And the same goes with the Switch Lite. I think that free model is something that has worked for Nintendo now since pretty much the DS, because with the DS they introduced a free model. You had the original DS, which was very bulky. You may remember, very heavy, bulky. Then you got the DSi, right? And I think there was one model as well. And then with the 3DS, you had the 3DS, you had the 2DS, which was obviously the very cheap alternative to the 3DS, which it was literal plastic, which kids could just throw around the room and
right.
it would survive. And then you had the new 3DS in 2015 and new Nintendo 2DS. So I think that because Nintendo treats the Switch as a handheld first and a console second, that they're going to do the similar trend. Because with consoles, they don't do that normally. But this is a handheld as well, and that's what we need to keep in mind. They want to upgrade the handheld aspect, and for the people that are not maybe into upgrading the handheld because they think a 720p screen is more than enough, and the Joy-Cons work well for them, then okay, just buy this dock, and you're getting pretty much the same experience on the TV. Maybe a little bit lower, but it's still an upgrade, and handheld-wise, you're still having 720p, so a decent experience. We make money no matter what, and that is what matters. At the end of the day, we've been able to extend the life cycle of the Switch for the next 2 or 3 years beyond what we originally planned, and we know that the Switch is going to become the best-selling Nintendo console, not handheld, of course, but Nintendo right. console of all time, and that is the entire goal of Nintendo. Like, ever since Kimishima and then Furukawa took over, it's business first for Nintendo.
Yep.
They want the days of being for the gamers. Like, just look at the policies that Nintendo has been applying as of late with the Splatoon event and Smash and so on. Nintendo is a business. They love to make quality products, but on the corporate side of things, they are as conservative as it gets. And it's a reason why they are calling Nintendo the most conservative gaming company from as well the most conservative city in Japan, Kyoto.
No, I definitely see all of that. you know, like Nintendo's business first, bottom dollar first. That's what's going on, especially with the latest, you know, I don't want to call it restructuring, but like, you know, the people within certain points of power being more business oriented and business centered and stuff. I definitely get all that, you know, but you know, for a lot of people, like for myself included, and of course there's a lot of people in the chat, you know, there's a lot of what we are going by or what we went by, that what Nintendo's capable of. Well, it just seems like a bit of a shell shock to see these type of movements and these type of, like, you know, not ideas but strategies being implemented by a company that would not even give that time of day and stuff, conservative or not, when it comes to their business style and their business practice and whatnot. But you know, I like when Nintendo decides to shake it up, that basically, you know, what it called, benefits all of us. And I feel this situation with the Pro specifically is going to be a very peculiar one, a very, like, something that you're gonna have to really get right, and it has like all these like recipes for disaster if they fuck up just one thing. But
Nintendo usually don't fuck up their hardware. They learned a lesson from the Wii U. They were just overconfident and
but
realized...
the Wii U wasn't their first fuck up. That's the thing. That's the thing.
No, it wasn't their first
like
screw up job. But the thing is, with the Switch, they have learned that to provide the games that people want, we need to them on the system by delivering, say, an open world Zelda game. Like, just imagine how many people came in because of Breath of the Wild being open world.
Right.
It's insane when you look at the sales of even Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, and I'm not even going to mention Skyward Sword, compared to the sales of, like, no Zelda game has even been close to 20 million sales on a single system. That just shows the power that open world games have. Just look at GTA 5. That's another game that could potentially come on the Pro, as well as the regular Switch, because you had the have the PS4 version come on the Pro, and then the PS3 version running on the base model and the Switch Lite.
Okay, so a ton of IPs are just ignored. So Rapid Cola, I gotta learn you something big. All right, let me learn you something big. All right, Rapid Cola. Now, don't take this as an attack, because it's all business, right? And that's the reason why, where's F-Zero? Where's Star Fox? Where's Metroid? It's all business. You know, a lot of the times people they use these memes on like, oh yeah, this series gets all the attention while this series is down the dirt, such as Earthbound, Mother, Star Fox, Metroid, F-Zero. You know why they're not making games? Because they don't sell. Because they don't sell. Like, you guys want the games, and like, you say you guys want the games, and then when they put out the games and they don't sell, the money talks the loudest. You can say that, oh, we want these games, we love these games so much, but when it comes, like me and Conrad has been saying, Nintendo's a business, and when these things do not sell, that's them telling you that's you telling them y'all don't want this. Like, I understand. I'm tired of playing Star Fox 64 for the 5th time. For the 10th time, and that's what they just keep remaking Star Fox 64 over and over again. I don't know why, but Star Fox Zero came out, and that game sold like dog shit. That game sold so badly. Like, bro, I am not even exaggerating on how bad Star Fox Zero sold, and because of that, it tells Nintendo, I guess no one wants Star Fox anymore. Star Fox Zero did not even break 200,000 units. Do you know how bad that is? That's, oh god.
Like, there are many reasons why Star Fox Zero failed, but I just have to say, it is also in a danger spot. Metroid Prime 4 has to sell very well for Nintendo to say that, okay, we're going to continue this series for another 10 years. Because for them, any game or franchise that doesn't sell 2 million on the Switch, because the Switch has just this amazing, massive install base. It's a flop. It's a flop, and that's why we hear nothing about ARMS or a sequel to ARMS, because ARMS is a game that is Joy-Con heavy, and it's also a game that didn't perform as well as Nintendo was hoping. They hoped it would become the new Splatoon, and then you look at the sales of ARMS compared to Splatoon 2, and you realize, okay, priority of Nintendo is definitely going to be there. And besides, the ARMS team was also some of the people that were working on Mario Kart before, so it's obvious that they're going to put them back to Mario Kart.
Right.
And then we get to the question: could Mario Kart 9 come on the Switch
No,
Pro?
no. I really don't think we're gonna see another home console Mario Kart for a long ass time, and that's because we literally Mario Kart Tour is still running around, and we just got Mario Kart Live, right? I really don't think we're gonna see Mario Kart 9 if it's gonna even be called 9, because I mean, would you even count Tour and Live as part of the Mario Kart series? Because you know they kept numbering them even though they weren't numbered. That's how we got 7, 8. But so like the next Mario Kart would be Mario Kart 11, and if you even want to count that. But I really don't think we're gonna see Mario Kart 9 anytime soon. But in order to end off the conversation with Rapid Cola, but the guy said that Nintendo is making games for all gamers. You have to understand what he means by that. You have to understand what Conrad means by that. All right. When you say, "Oh, where are these games?" They're not making games for all gamers. Those games didn't sell, so obviously the gamers that want those games aren't there or aren't willing to spend the money. The games that they're making right now are selling super well, and they're selling dummy well. Animal Crossing is the highest selling Switch Nintendo game in Japan. You know, Breath of the Wild sold this much by doing this. They're finding out the tech that's maximizing the sale, thus making games for all gamers, because the amount of units are being sold, the amount of money they're making in, that's what's telling them that they're making games for all gamers, because they're making they're selling more games than they have been in years. They've been making more money than they have been in years. They're selling more units than they have been in years. This is obviously what all gamers want, because the money speaks the loudest, and that's what we mean by that statement. Sure, it sucks that we're not, you know, y'all really rolled the dice on Metroid Prime Federation Force. Y'all really rolled the dice by not buying that game, man. Metroid almost died because of y'all, which I'm not blaming y'all, but I mean, like, you know, y'all roll the dice. But F-Zero, gone. Star Fox, I don't think we're gonna get another Star Fox game for years, and Metroid Prime 4 is in development. Sure, it sucks we're not seeing those type of games anymore, but like I said, like Conrad said, Nintendo's a business. The sales are being maximized in the way that they see that is being proven by, you know, being maximized, and that's what we mean by the statement of they're making games for all gamers, because everything they're starting to put out is getting that increase in increments. That's what we mean by that. You know, sure, like, trust me, I love Star Fox. I grew up on Star Fox. I love Metroid. I love F-Zero, bro. F-Zero GX, that shit was a bopper, but they don't sell, so rip.
Yeah, that game was also very punishing as well. So if you weren't a veteran or an expert gamer, there was no way to get through that.
Hard. GX was hard. That shit was difficult, man. I'm like, yo, that game's so good. I love GX.
But the thing about Nintendo, and what we also need to consider, is that game development is getting more and more expensive. And Nintendo needs to make back those costs, expenses, and make a profit on everything.
Yep.
At the end of the day, because it's an investment, it's a risk and a reward situation, as it is with everything in life, and that's why Nintendo is also more careful. It takes longer to develop games, and it gets more and more expensive to develop games, because technology is definitely not getting cheaper when it comes to game development. While the prices of games remain the same, it's still $60.
Yep.
I know
70 in some cases.
Yeah, they're playing around with $70, but we know that is already biting their ass, especially since you can buy the same games for like $60 on an Xbox Series X.
Yep.
So I don't think Nintendo is going to hurry with that anytime soon. But the thing about Nintendo and the Pro is that at one point they need to start working with new engines. They need to start working on the next generation as well. And that's why they can't, in my eyes, continue the Switch forever. At one point, there's going to be an end. There's going to be a successor.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that's why I think that they are going to hold off Mario Kart to become a dual release on both the Switch and the next system.
I feel that's way better. That's a way better take, rather than just when the Pro comes out, we're gonna get 9. I'm like, no. I feel that's a way safer bet to have like 9 or whatever the fuck the next Mario Kart game is. You know, next console and this console, like cross generation.
Because what I think is going to happen is that Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be the last game that is going to be pushed on a new Zelda game that is going to be pushed on the Switch. And it's also going.
That hurts. I keep forgetting that if we're lucky, we could get 3 games, and that happened on the GameCube. But I don't count that because Forza Stars Adventures, is that really a game? It is a game, but like you know what I'm talking about. But when you say yo Breath of the Wild 2, I mean we got Link's Awakening, so that's 2 games so far, a 3rd game. Yeah, so Breath of the Wild 2, that's gonna be it.
It's just a remake.
Yeah.
It was just a remake, and that is the thing. After Breath of the Wild, they're probably going to sit down again and spend another 4 or 5 years because already, like the thing about Nintendo and Zelda right now is that they have seen that pairing them along with these new models of the Switch works tremendously well. It gets people to buy the new hardware and also experiencing Zelda on the newest hardware, whether it's Breath of the Wild or Link's Awakening. And now the same thing is most likely going to happen with Breath of the Wild 2, and then you would think, oh yeah, the next Zelda is going to launch with the successor to the Switch. No, it's not going to happen, because if we get this game in 2021 and we get the next Switch, the successor of the Switch in 2024, the next Zelda is not going to be ready by then. They need to make a new world, new characters, new scenario, work on a new engine, mechanics. I don't see a Zelda game after Breath of the Wild 2 coming until this soonest 2025. And that would be a 4-year development cycle. And even that is an optimistic with the scale of games that we see these days. Just look at Cyberpunk 2077. That game had 4 years of development. And still, that was clearly not enough. So as ambition gets bigger and bigger, just look at how long it took to develop Red Dead Redemption 2, GTA 6. We have no idea when that is going to come out. Like, we're in a very difficult spot right now where we don't know how long it's going to be until the next installments of games come out. I'm just so glad we have a sequel reusing assets of Breath of the Wild in the works, because I know that game is not 4 or 5 years away at this point.
Right. But, you know, I swear people are so afraid with, like, you know, I would say, like, you called it something like the cyberpunk virus or the cyberpunk disease or something like that, where a lot of people are afraid. They're like, oh man, yeah, Breath of the Wild 2, man, you guys think it's gonna be releasing this year? Nah, it needs more time in development. What, you want another cyberpunk situation? And I'm like, bro, look, I understand y'all got burned by cyberpunk and stuff, especially considering they're the ones that developed the Witcher series, whatnot, but you can't apply that same logic to every developer on the planet, especially a developer that literally took their time to make Breath of the Wild when the physics engine was fucking up, right? So, you know, keep saying that over and over again, just saying like that's gonna mean something. Like, no, like, relax. And Breath of the Wild 2 has been in development since October 2017, so, you know, at least October is 2017. So I mean, like, I feel like it has a good amount of time under its belt, and you know, release is imminent, or information is imminent. But I like how you brought that up.
Actually, the more I think of it, HMK, I wouldn't be surprised if Breath of the Wild 2 became a result of Nintendo saying, hey, we have plans of having a Switch Pro-ish system eventually.
Yeah.
So we would love you to have another Zelda game. And then probably they said the only way to do that would be to make a sequel. We have this idea that we scrapped, so we can do this. And that's how Nintendo would say, yeah, then we'll do this, and we'll make sure that it looks better on this top model compared to Breath of the Wild, because we need a kind of graphical leap between 2017 and 2020, 2021. Exactly. And I think that would be a very interesting perspective, because that is marketing on a whole new level from Nintendo, something we haven't seen much of in the past. The closest we got was obviously with Super Mario Galaxy 2 coming out after Super Mario Galaxy, but there was no new hardware to show the leap and bounce in not only in the gameplay. Man,
I don't need no technology, Conrad. I got Yoshi, man. That's my technology. I love Galaxy 2. Galaxy 2 is like my favorite Mario game, bro. Like, you don't understand, bro. Galaxy
2 is incredible.
It's so good. I'm mad that's not on the 3D All-Stars. Watch, Nintendo's like, after once Mario dies at the end of March, they're gonna release Galaxy 2 on the fucking Switch for like $5 or some shit. Just wait, man.
Yeah, or a Galaxy 1 and 2 collection.
Yeah,
because I think we also have an anniversary. Yeah, no, there's no anniversary this year. But you have the anniversary of Super Mario 64, so they could maybe use something from that. But who knows? The thing is, the Switch Pro is the key to Nintendo, and they need to get it out before the next gen systems take too many customers to their systems. They need to get it out before Horizon Forbidden West comes out, for instance, because those are the type of games that are going to start generating a lot of sales. Because when you finally get those big, meaty exclusives on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, then Nintendo needs to have something to counter that. Because at one point, people will have to consider, okay, I haven't bought... Because they have to appeal to people that haven't bought a Switch yet. And that is the thing that people don't realize. Nintendo is reaching the point where how do we sell this console to more people? Especially when they see the leaps and bounds in graphics on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. They need to show, okay, we can also do a graphical boost, but we're also going to have far more amazing games and more exclusives than PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Because what we see now is that both of these console makers are trying to dominate the games market by buying up more and more studios. And like Microsoft buying Bethesda, that is crazy when you think of it.
I'm waiting for them to make their money back. What the fuck?
And what's going to happen with Elder Scrolls 6 as well? It's not likely going to be on PlayStation 5 now because it's not in the interest of Microsoft.
Right.
So yeah, that's just how I see it. Nintendo is in a very crucial year right now. They want to extend the life of the Switch, and the best way to do that is to say here we have a more powerful model, so we don't need to upgrade the Switch for another 2 or 3 years. And that is the number one reason why we're gonna have a Switch Pro, because they don't want to retire this Nintendo Switch anytime soon. They have no guarantee that a successor is going to sell as well as this, because the magic of the Wii and the Switch is that it was something different and something that felt like must-have products because of the whole I can play motion controls with the Wii and I can take my games on the go with the Switch. And that magic is hard to replicate. Of course, they could make a Switch 2, which is much more powerful, 4K and everything, but it's not going to have the same launch magic and casual hype that you saw with the Nintendo Switch. And that is also something that Nintendo has in mind and is kind of their biggest fear as we see the Switch aging. Because in a few weeks, we're going to be at the Switch has been out for 4 years. Yeah,
4 years old.
That is more than half of a life cycle for a console. Usually, a life cycle is 7 years. So if they want to extend it beyond that, they have to come with more powerful content. Yeah, because we don't have to talk about the Switch as it is right now. We need to talk about how does the Switch stand in 2022, 2023, or even 2024. And that is where you find the entire argument about the Switch Pro. It's not about this year. It's about the coming years. It's about the Metroid Prime 4. It's about Monolith Soft's new IP and whatever third-party support Nintendo wants to maintain on the system. Because that is also going to be crucial to people that are maybe not Nintendo fans, because the Nintendo fans they own a Switch, let's face it.
Right.
People that like Nintendo, they already bought a Switch. But the people you need to convince now is the hardcore gamer. And that's why you need hardcore experiences to convince those people to go in and buy a Nintendo Switch Pro on top. Because finally they see, okay, the graphics are now passable for me, even though it's not nowhere near to PS5. But even an Angry Joe, he loved Breath of the Wild. He just said that, okay, the reason I couldn't give this a 10 out of 10 is because the story is completely lackluster, and stories are kind of important in video games, and that's why, and that's something I think they are about to address in Breath of the Wild 2. I think that's going to be a very cutscene heavy game, especially after the experience we got
with Age of Calamity.
Like the best thing about Age of Calamity are the cutscenes. Let's face it. The gameplay is good, but the cutscenes are, oh my god, the action, the level of action we saw in the cutscenes in Age of Calamity is something that we've not seen in any Zelda game prior.
Oh yeah, no, the cutscenes were great. I love the gameplay, but the cutscenes, the music, bro, I love Age of Calamity. Age of Calamity is like great. We still need to do a Fifth Dimension spoiler cast with the boys on that.
Oh, you
bring back together. But and like all things that you're saying when it comes to like, you know, the longevity of the Switch, when you said thinking about the Switch in 2022, 2023, I was just really thinking about that. I'm like, ooh, that feels weird. That like trust me, I would want the Switch to go on as much as it could, especially with like Pro or not. But when you said that, I'm like, dang, that really made me just like stop and think. I'm like, yo, Switch in 2022, 2023, bro, what could they do at that point? Like, I'm like, damn.
And then think about Switch in 2025. That's where you get the breaking point, because then you are like 8 years since the launch of the system, and you know it's time to most likely move on. And Nintendo, and especially say the Zelda team that is very ambitious, they want to work on more and more powerful hardware. Right. Because without the boost to HD, there would be no way to make Breath of the Wild. Like, you couldn't run that thing on the Wii, that's for sure. So that's how technology works. Eventually, you'll have to succeed, but you can delay that jump, just like PlayStation and Xbox did in this generation. And I think that Nintendo just saw that and was like, okay, this is the way. We are going to keep the Switch going. Right. For another couple of years, and it's like, yeah, it may not be original, but they've been stealing ideas for us since pretty much the Wii.
Man, I just really hope that Nintendo, God, I just really like Nintendo doesn't do this a lot, only for like maybe like 1 or 2 games, but they don't really show off like a long roadmap for a lot of games sometimes. And when they do, we're still left in the dark. And right now, that roadmap is so blank. Like, you know, considering everything beyond that of April and whatnot. But man, I'm just like, knowing what we've got with the Switch so far, I want to be optimistic when it comes to looking into the unknown of like certain titles or releases or anything like that. Especially with a game like Breath of the Wild 2 potentially leading the way. But man, you just. Like, I was here ready to talk about the Nintendo Switch Pro, but man, you got me in some sort of like existential crisis about, like, you know, where the Switch can go beyond that if we don't get the Pro this year. Huh. Damn, yo, Conrad, it has to be time. It has to be time. Like, holy shit.
Because the alternative is a new Nintendo console in 2023. That's what I think. Sometime in 2023, because the system was outdated on TVs the moment it launched. And the moment I really figured out that, okay, the Switch really needs a more powerful model was with Witcher 3. When playing that game, yes, it was a miracle that it was playing at all. But then I realized, shouldn't we have games like this on Nintendo systems and that are actually able to run better than this? And that's when I realized that Nintendo needs to keep up with the times as well. We need a system that... I think a lot of the effort in the Switch, unfortunately, went into the Joy-Cons. The whole HD rumble, IR camera, and so on. That is stuff that was exciting the first year, or even in Super Mario Party, but has not been utilized since. And it's expensive technology that is just there. And it's not being utilized at all in the Zelda games, for example.
Right.
So in order to justify that kind of technology, you need to have it in a Zelda game, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense.
Can you imagine, like, if they decided to take that stuff away for the Pro or whatever the fuck, or like in newer generations of the Switch or newer models of the Switch, whatever, they decided to take it away and no one's been using it, but when they take it away, people start complaining. I'm like, bro, you weren't using it. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, we already have the Switch Lite that doesn't have HD rumble,
right?
Which doesn't have an IR camera. So it just, and that's what I was also thinking about the Skyward Sword HD remake. Shit, this thing doesn't make sense because of Switch Lite. You can't make those motion controls moves.
I made a video about this not too long ago about how they could rectify that. They could literally just tear a page out of the book of Metal Gear Rising in order to like have something like that, you know, be applicable on something like a Switch Lite, where like, oh, for, you know, Link's sword movements, you can easily just transfer into a blade mode by holding down a button, since we actually have an actual good controller scheme instead of just like the Wii U, the Wii Wii remote and the nunchuck. We actually have 2 triggers, right? So there's like, we actually have 4 triggers, you know. So like, you know, there are 2 triggers freed up, and if you really need to want to play Skyward Sword on a Switch Lite that doesn't have motion controls, you could just switch to handheld mode for blade mode and then swing your sword, all that shit. Yeah, that.
Yeah, that's true. But the problem with Skyward Sword again is that it's a game that was completely designed from top to bottom, or the Wii U Motion Plus,
right?
And that is the biggest problem I have, because the game's linearity limitations are all tied to
the Wii controls. Yeah, the motion controls. Like, it was built off that, and you know, I didn't hate it for it. I'm like, okay, all right. And then the adventure was really good, especially since it was kind of Metroid like. Which is like, oh, this fits this fits for Zelda. You'll do like more, but everyone's like, Skyward Sword sucks. And then we got Breath of the Wild, and people were like, Breath of the Wild sucks. I'm like, y'all don't know what you want. So, man.
I think they want something of a blend of Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, and I think that's pretty much what they're doing with Breath of the Wild 2, bringing back the dungeons that everyone was missing, because that is a dungeon crawler, and they try to change that with Breath of the Wild, but as you can see from other games, open world games, you can have more linear sections or progression, but still have an open world where you have complete freedom when it comes to the side quests, and that's what I think is it's the whole emphasis with Breath of the Wild 2. It's going to be, okay, we're going to address all these shortcomings and try to just make the best possible Zelda game that we can with this engine, this world, and this premise. And then we will have a hardware boost with the Switch Pro that will allow us to make this thing run at least 30 frames per second and 1080p on this model. And of course, when you get a top model, you always feel like the other ones are going to get neglected.
Right.
But Nintendo are careful with that, because they know how many own base model Switches, they know how many own Switch Lites, and they're not CD Projekt Red. They're not just going to think about, oh, the beefiest GTX 3090s are able to run this game with ray tracing and everything. And
right, they're never thinking about that.
Yeah, and the game looks like crap on every other system. No, Nintendo doesn't do that, and I think that more developers should also think that way. That you need to first and foremost be able to run your game on the weakest of the current consoles, and then after making the game running there, start upgrading it towards the next step. So say the PS4 Pro, then the PS5, and then eventually the most powerful PC games. And I think that Nintendo has a clear priority when it comes to this. Majora's Mask, it was a good example of the power of new Nintendo 3DS with shorter loading times, with a little bit better graphical performance, having that extra analog stick. The analog stick, of course, made the biggest change, but you could buy that peripheral for the 3DS and be able to play. That's the way I played, actually, Majora's Mask 3D. I really loved it that way. So I think that this has to be an upgrade that is meaningful for the hardcore games that Nintendo has lined up. Because, face it, all the non-hardcore games, that being the new Pokemon, Animal Crossing, and the Marios and so on, they already have installments on the Switch. But Metroid doesn't have one. Monolith Soft's new IP obviously doesn't have one because it's a new IP. Breath of the Wild 2. We have Bayonetta 3 and a couple of other games. Obviously, we're gonna get probably another Pokemon game as well, the Switch, because we know it sells. But that's where the focus is for the next few years, the hardcore experience where they want to draw in a more adult audience because they know that kids have already bought this console. And now they want to appeal to the people that already own a PS5 and own an Xbox Series X, want to experience that hardcore Nintendo. Like a good example of this is my good friend Pio, who is a big PlayStation fanboy, but who loves Breath of the Wild. And it was his as well, his Game of the Year of 2017.
Nice.
And that is the type of people, the Angry Joes, the Pios, the open world games on YouTube that you want to appeal to. Because we want more of those experiences. They are time consuming to develop and everything, but that's how you draw people in. Just even if Cyberpunk is broken, that game has sold 13 million copies with all refunds included. That just shows that you can draw in a completely new audience to many of your franchises just by altering them a little bit, giving them a more hardcore gameplay, open world premise, because those are the kind of evolution to Nintendo franchises that are going to bring a whole new audience to the system, and also make it so that the Nintendo Switch totally can sell 110, maybe even 120 million units, just like the PlayStation 4 did.
I definitely see that. You know, all things considered, with like the amount of units that can be sold with a Pro and what it could be, what it can accomplish. But you know, I think the bottom line of all that is, you know, the bottom line to all that, I feel, is we have different fan bases that can we compare the amount of units sold from different consoles to the Nintendo Switch Pro, from like, you know, Sony, PlayStation, and from the games that are being, you know, heralded or being championed for that, like Cyberpunk and stuff. It's just all of a mess. But yeah.
Yeah, third-party support is one thing I'm going to be a little bit concerned about. Like, we could see some games that were on last gen coming to the Switch as well, but the question is how much effort they are willing to put into it.
And that's the dark thing, because we have no idea what was coming up with this. Because, you know, it for me it's weird, because like imagine the Nintendo making the, you know, announcement or the what do you call it, the event in order to show off the Nintendo Switch Pro. It's gonna be so weird seeing a company that, you know, never kind of focused on like specs or power or anything like that, for them break down why you should buy the Pro and what Pro does for games. And I'm like, this is gonna be weird seeing Nintendo, like, you know, talk about that, because, you know, every now and again, you know, PlayStation, PC enthusiasts, Unreal Engine, Xbox, they're like, oh, this console can achieve this console can achieve that. It's gonna be weird Nintendo doing that, because they never done that, you know what I mean? So like you said, like how much like effort they're gonna put into this, and how are they gonna really present it to like, you know, to a fan base, to the people who already bought their system, that, you know, I don't want to say they don't care about that, but it was never really on their level of importance type shit.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you want to appeal to a hardcore audience, they are more obsessed with specs. A lot of people are obsessed with specs. Just look at the whole debacle with PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X. Which one is more powerful? Both are ridiculously powerful for consoles. Let's just face that. There's no way any Switch upgrade is getting close to that.
Right.
Most likely not even the successor of the Switch can get to that level, because that is expensive tech.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why those consoles are so massive, because you need cooling power, you need heat sinks that are bigger than almost my monitor that I'm watching through right now. And that is because weapons like that requires the right type of cooling, heat sinks, and everything. And I just think that Nintendo has one appeal to hardcore gamers, and that is the whole handheld aspect. Being able to bring The Witcher 3 on the go. Who cares about how it looks? It's The Witcher 3, and it works with all DLC on one 32 GB cartridge.
That's,
no
oh
download.
my god, I love that. It's like, who cares? Like, it works. Like,
Exactly. And then when you are on a plane stuck for 5 hours flying from Europe to the US, you're not going to care if the game looks a little bit murky. No, I can play an amazing game that I will play on a console otherwise.
right.
And that is where I think Nintendo has a lot of potential. They need more of those type of impossible ports. The Doom Eternals, the Witcher 3s.
The Final Fantasy VII remakes, the Kingdom Hearts 3s.
Exactly.
Come on,
the next Zelda, Metroid Prime 4. Those type of games are going to bring in people that realize, okay, this is now a very impressive handheld experience, and it also looks quite good on television. So I can actually justify playing it on both systems. No, in both modes. I can play it both in handheld mode, and I can actually play through, because it looks pretty much like a PS4, and that are graphics that I'm willing to accept when it comes to a game that is on a cartridge, and I can play first on my TV and then take my progression with me on the go. And that is the big appeal, I think, that Nintendo can really capitalize on the last few years of the Switch.
But then when will those last few years be? That's the question.
That begins now. As soon as Breath of the Wild 2 is out, I'm saying that
so?
we're talking about... Yeah, after the last new Zelda for the system is out, we are already starting the countdown towards the successor of the...
And I could see why you think that, because I mean, like, the same thing. Majora's Mask was like the start of the countdown. Twilight Princess was the end. Skyward Sword was the end. And what else? What do you call them? Breath of the Wild was the end for the Wii U. So Breath of the Wild 2 could be literally the beginning of the... God, that's...
It's going to be a long end, of course. It's going to be a 3 years away end. But nonetheless, we're not going to get another Zelda game on the Switch after this, because the Zelda team has been way too busy with way too many projects. And starting to work on a whole new... They might reuse the engine, but they're not able to reuse the assets. They have to pretty much start everything from scratch.
Hey, let's go remakes. Come on. Give me that Ocarina of Time remake. Not the 3D version.
That's something they could work. And especially if they go for 4K, and I mean native on the next console, then Zelda is going to have a big overhaul once again. Because an upgrade from HD to 4K is massive. It's like 16 times the detail.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, every time I hear someone talk about 8K, I'm like... Bro, y'all think you think, like, every time I hear 8K in the conversation, I'm like, yo, you think you care, but you don't care. Like, you don't care. Like, 4K, like, we have not truly mastered 4K, and yet we're looking towards 8K. I'm like, bro, let's finish our dinner before we get more dinner. We mastered 1080p before we try the next step. And the next step originally was supposed to be 3D, but that didn't work out. See what happens. And then 4K was the next step. Yeah, we still haven't mastered 4K, and people are talking about 8K. I'm like, bro. Like, we don't need it.
8K is only happening on the most powerful of beasts of PCs right now.
Yep.
Like, you need those multiple graphics card connected at once to get that thing running properly.
Man. So when people are like 8K ready, I'm like, bro, I'm never gonna need this. You think I'm gonna shell out for monitors or a TV that is 8K capable just to use this? Man, nah, bro. Shit's gonna melt my wall and like make the paint behind the TV radioactive or some shit. Man, no, dude, no, man. Like, I will only accept 8K when it becomes when I can buy a TV that is 8K, that's pure 8K ready for under $300. Then I'll accept 8K within your marketing scheme lineup or whatever the fuck. But bro, man. That's crazy. It's a lot of people say it's not real. I see why you say it's not real, but I mean, technically there is like the Super 4K. I used to work with LG. And I was a dude that had to go to stores and explain to the stores of how 4K TVs worked in order for them to give the pitch to the customers, right? And bro, can I tell you the amount of people that were not having it? They were just like, man, why are we selling this? I'm like, bro, yo, you want to talk to marketing and you want to talk to, you know, consumer relations, go for it, man. They sent me to teach you. All right, this is what 4K is capable of. There, now pitch it back to me like I'm a customer and stuff. And then they try to sell me a 4K. I'm like, bro, I don't believe it. And then the guy's like, neither do I. And I'm like, oh my god. And that's when 4K was like breaking into the market. Now 8K and shit. I'm like, all right, man.
You know what would have been hilarious though, since we're talking about all these specs things and so on, is that after they completely fixed Cyberpunk, you know, bugs, missing features,
in
and
2 years.
Everything. Yeah, like No Man's Skying it, and then they announced the Switch port. That would be freaking insane.
Yo, if they do that, I'm like, you guys are out of your fucking mind. Like, bro, like if they have the ball. Well, I mean, like there was that video of the guy who was able to run it off cloud. There was a dude who was able to jailbreak a Switch and run off the cloud, and it was running pretty well. But if they have the balls to actually put Cyberpunk on a cartridge to put on your Switch, I promise you, you better, you turn on your Switch from a distance, because that thing is gonna explode. But you know, we'll see. Like, with how bad the console versions have been running, and how good the PC, like how applicable the PC version's been running, especially when you get the cloud. Because if you guys haven't seen that video, go watch that video. This guy was able to jailbreak a Switch and to get running off of what was that Google service?
Google Stadia.
This guy was able to get Cyberpunk 2077 running on Stadia, running on the Switch, and it ran actually pretty well. But of course, you know, you had to do all that, and then, you know, Google Stadia is compatible with the Switch if you fuck with it, because it's running off an NVIDIA chip. But it works. But if they ever try to put it on a cartridge and like, oh, here's the game, sell it to you, that shit will be funny as fuck, bro.
Yeah. Cyberpunk is the lesson of why you don't launch games until they are actually ready, because you can feel throughout that entire game, this is not a finished game.
Yeah.
Cut corners everywhere, and like it's obvious they had one strategy with this damn game. It was, oh, the last generation, the current generation of consoles is ending. We have 130 million PlayStation 4 owners. We don't want to miss out on them if we have to delay the game until 2022.
Right.
And it was all money. Come on, it was all money.
It was money. And like they knew they had people eating out of the palm of their hands when it came to promoting the game. So like, oh, like not only was it money, it was easy money. But yeah, we'll see what's dealing with them. But in order to close off the conversation on the Nintendo Switch Pro, Conrad, let's cover a few bases in a question that I'm just gonna throw you, and then I'll answer it myself, and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. Is that Switch Pro? Do you believe it's coming out this year? At what point in time do you think it's gonna come out? At what point in time do you think they're gonna announce it? And how do you feel, like, you know, we've covered these points, but just, you know, as a closer, how do you feel specifically on a price point and pitch when it comes to the Nintendo Switch Pro? All right, go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of launch, I see two possibilities. One is if it's tied day and date with Breath of the Wild 2's launch, then I think November this year. Or if that game has to be delayed, then maybe even delayed to early 2022. But I just don't think they want to miss out on the holiday sales this year, because people are going to feel cheated out of a Switch Pro and buying a base model Switch. So I think they're going to do everything, especially with the Zelda 35th anniversary as well. If the Switch Pro is not tied, however, to the Breath of the Wild 2, then I think it could be a summer game launching along with Splatoon 3, as we talked about through this discussion as well. Price point wise, I am tempted to say $350 because of a price cut off the base model Switch. You don't want to get too close to the level of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, which is $500. They want to have that little gap from them. So I think that is a good price point, and then cutting down the price of the base model Switch to $250, which I think is going to be a good business move for them. And then on top of that, it's going to be a very hardcore focused system and lineup as well, because they want to encourage people that normally wouldn't buy a Nintendo system, but because of this upgrade, because of the games that are coming to it, and also some special impossible third-party ports, are going to crave in and say, okay, I want to be able to play these games handheld for all foreseeable future. And that's the big argument for a Nintendo Switch Pro.
Exactly. All right, that sounds good. That sounds good. From my take, you know, I honestly don't see it releasing outside of a holiday release, and I feel because of what's going on with the world, what's going on with the releases, and you know, as time moves forward, Nintendo's getting more information of how to attack and have this plan of attack, and I think that, you know, the holiday season is going to be the best bet. Considering that, I feel like the biggest draw, or the biggest point in order to get people to want to get this, like you said, is hardcore. It's a hardcore focus will be nice, but you know, considering Nintendo and their fans and the people who are playing this, I just feel that, you know, they would have to focus not only on the games, but on one specific feature. And I don't know if that, you know, that feature would be the amount of power and stuff, because that type of marketing towards the couch market never works. And I understand that, you know, it would have to be hardcore focused, but I don't think they want to forget about the hardcore market. But I mean, the hardcore market probably is already covered in terms of Lite and the regular Nintendo Switch. So I guess they could focus on you know, I would say a pro hardcore market, you know, have dimmed lights, have people play Breath of the Wild at 60 frames, you know, playing Smash, you know, with a new controller and whatnot. I think that will be the biggest way for them to, you know, really push their product. But when it comes to a supposed game, I just have to agree with you, and I think everyone else is thinking the same thing. When it comes to Breath of the Wild 2, I think it's going to coincide release. I think it's going to definitely coincide release, in order for hey, you're getting Breath of the Wild 2, why not get a Switch Pro? Hey, you're getting a Switch Pro, why not get Breath of the Wild 2? Type shit. So I mean, history repeats itself in the terms of Zelda being tied to Switch games, you know, Switch launches. We had Breath of the Wild with the Switch, we had Link's Awakening with the Switch Lite, and now we're probably gonna get Breath of the Wild 2 with the Switch Pro. And 2021 marking up the 35th anniversary, I think it's gonna be great. And hey, 35th anniversary Switch Pro, Switch Pro exclusive, not exclusive, themed system, right, or themed dock or whatever. I think that would be really, really cool. And you know, you know, if this thing is just gonna be a dock, which I hope it is, you know, people want to play things on the go, like you said, it could be a dock and a system. But I mean, I think a good way to cover all the bases, dock and system. The dock will probably be $200, and then the dock and system, God, it's probably gonna be I'm thinking 400. I'm thinking 400. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And I don't think that the Switch Pro by itself is ever gonna be sold. You know, if you're gonna buy a Switch Pro, it comes with the dock in the package. But I just want the thing. No, I just want the unit. No, it's either you get the dock or you get the docking system. No, just system. But that's what I'm thinking. And with that being said, I think we wrapped up pretty nicely, and this will be the end of this episode of The Fifth Dimension. I want to thank y'all so much for coming on out, and I want to thank Conrad, my boy, coming with one, for coming on out. Thank you so much for coming on out, man.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Man, I'm looking forward to the further discussions. Everyone, guys, if you enjoyed this, please consider sharing, favorite this for the people on YouTube. Sharing, favorite, subscribe to HMK, and follow here on Twitch, and consider subscribing to your boy here on Twitch. It's been a ride. I will see you guys next Friday for the next episode of The Fifth Dimension. Before I send you guys to the wind, this is The Fifth Dimension. We're going to go ahead and raid another member of The Fifth Dimension. Let's take a look, because it's in a book, A Reading Rainbow. We're going to go ahead and raid our boy. Let's see.
Raid Shadow Legends?
No, not Raid Shadow Legends. No. No. We're gonna go ahead and raid the Game Prodigy, who is currently streaming Genshin Impact. And, you know, I'm waiting for Genshin Impact to come on the Switch, man. What happened? They said it was coming. Man, what the heck? So we're gonna go out and, oh snap! He was able to pull that new girl, Ganya, whatever the fuck. We're gonna go ahead and raid him, and yeah, we're gonna have a really good time. So until then, this has been HMK, and I will check you guys later. Let's raid. We out.